Welcome everyone to this Game 2 matchup between John Birckhead and Eizan. They had their first match not too long ago, and this is Game 2 of this. So I'm Professor Render, joining me is Pasta Morpheus. How are you doing?
I am doing really well, thank you. I appreciate that. I hope you are doing well also. Professor Renderer, aka Science Bear, it's a pleasure to be in the booth as always to get to enjoy some wonderful free enterprise between two just absolutely excellent runners. We have a little bit of new school versus old school here. John Birkhead, part of kind of the new wave of FE talent that's come in, trying to take the world by storm. And Eizan representing the old school, kind of a flash in the past for some folks who might not be familiar, but no slouch in his own right, being able to time after time put up incredible finishes and performances in tournaments. So I am, with that information out there, very excited to see this matchup. I love kind of the new school versus old school matches, and their first race, as you alluded to, but a couple seconds difference. So if that was any telltale sign of what's going to happen tonight, I am certainly very excited to see it. We got a Rosa start. We got some awesome objectives here. We're going to kick a butt. We're going to look at a timer. I'm all about it. What are you looking forward to most in this seed tonight, Professor Renderer?
I'm looking forward to just. I mean, I've always liked this flag set, and I've been having a good time with this tournament as it is. So I'm looking forward for a fun race with a lot of divergence. We got a Rosa start, as you mentioned. Personally, one of my favorite of the two options that you can get as your white mage.
Yeah, Rosa and Porum are the two options you can start with. I know that for me, I prefer Porum, which I know for those who may have watched me and listened to me in the past, that might come as a bit of a shock. But Porum learns Exit naturally, and boy oh boy do I hate the Tower of Zot in this flag set. So I like Porum. I know a lot of folks like Rosa because she gives that extra HP, learns Cure 4 super early, but a lot of the times, you have the power. You don't have to worry about healing if everything just goes away before you have to heal. So we'll see what our runners feel about it as they kind of route through. If they maybe go up ordeals and try to get a Cecil to exit, if they do the Tower Zot to get Rosa to exit, and kind of where they go from there. We'll see what Pyre, our restreamer, has given them in the way of a seed, what they can work with. And then we'll see what buttons Garen's going to get to track here, and push those and keep us all entertained with the happenings on both runners as they rapidly go through this flag set. Omnidextrous being the key feature of these flags for this tournament, the OMG tournament, Omnidextrous Memers Guild. I know, folks, you've probably seen a lot of races at this point, but for anyone who hasn't, Professor Render, you want to talk a little bit about what the Omnidextrous flag is after we get going here with this Rosa and Edge start and that Earth Crystal right away?
Yes, the Omnidextrous Wacky Challenge. So, any character can wield any equipment. It can have any sword, can have any shield, can have any piece of equipment, and both items can be dual wielded for your weapons and shields. So it's not limited to Edge. It is now universal between every character. Now there are some characters that still aren't the best for each option. Notably Yang, because Yang still has his unique formulas. So, um, but every character can utilize the power of like a crystal sword or an Avenger sword, or can double up on shields and just be a tank to help with being a support character.
Yeah, very well said. Definitely a great explanation there for folks who may be wondering how Omni works. Really hit the high points there, Professor Render. Appreciate that. And we have Eizan hopping right over to the Tower of Zod. No surprise. Troya going to give us an Edward, giving us a Silent Staff, which is not actually as bad as you might think. That gives us mage mashing, excuse me, which could come in handy for the Mad Ogres. A Rosa Edge start is extremely powerful. Edge is just extremely good overall on these flags, and we'll see what's in this treasury. We got a Gungnir Spear, which is really nice, a Dragon Whip. We started with 2 Cat Claws as well, a Blizzard Spear, a Charm Rod, a Rune Ring, both help with a little bit of magic, and then a headband for a little bit of extra strength. So overall, that treasury, I would say, is probably like a 4 to 5 out of 10. No Heroine Robes is the big one, but we got some pretty good stuff in there. The Blizzard Spear, the Gungnir Spear, those are the big ones for me, and then a little bit of magic in there. Edge can be used as a very effective Black Mage in this flag set by way of boosting his magic gear. So that is a pretty fantastic find with a Charm Rod and a Rune Ring in there to buff him another 13 extra Wisdom. Really gets those blitzes and flames going.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And we with this flag set, the treasury is capped at max tier 5 and on T Pro Shuffle, so it may not be like it may not be as potent as it is in when you're not playing with max tier 5 and T Pro, but there are some notable things that you can still find, as you mentioned.
Yeah, and loving the divergence we get right away here. Eizan looted the public treasury and is now off to Hobbs. And John Birckhead going to stick around in Troya a little bit and do the Flame Dog check. We did pick up that Blizzard Spear, which means that this doggo is toast by way of Blizzard. That doesn't really make any sense, but it's okay. We don't have to worry about how the math works. Instead, we're going to get a Paralyzed and Sleeping Dog. I guess we didn't put the Blizzard stuff on, which is fine. Now there's going to be some extra damage coming out, and the doggo will go down. A Dupe Edge up on Hobbs is a big ol' nothing burger for Eizan. Gonna straight up reset out, and we get a pass from the doggos. So beware those who don't go and do the doggo. And interestingly enough, John Birckhead going to make a big play here early on. This is something that I would be very suspect of if he were down 0-1, or if this were a 0-0 match, or even a 1-1 match. This is the type of play you make when you have a game cushion, because even with this start, this can go horribly wrong. Edge is super strong, but this is really scary to try to get through this early. So here we go. You know, we'll see if John can make it through here while Eizan finds an evil wall that he will quickly be able to dispatch.
I definitely see the play in mind here for John Birckhead. He wants to get that exit very early on that Rosa, because Rosa doesn't get exit until you complete the Tower of Zot. We do also find a D-miss hitting sitting here on the Magus Sisters spot.
Yeah, it looks like just an Odin summon from Antlion Cave, so you know, more nothing for Eizan taking what I would say is a more conventional, more conservative route through the seed so far. Antlion, it's not quite French vanilla, but it's about as close to the Antlion Cave, and somehow not on the move. The moon, excuse me. So, you know, Antlion on the move, not the moon. But D-Mist up here, kind of a rough one time-wise, but is very safe with the defensive gear. We're getting a little bit of darting coming out here, a little bit of attacking. Again, relatively safe fight, but is going to take a little bit of time here.
Yeah, the Deep Mist is one of those fights where you have to just respect the cycle with the 3 hits, turn to miss, wait out the ATB ticks to free form. On a spot like Mega Sisters, with it being 9,000 HP, which in the normal game it's split amongst the 3 sisters, so each one has like 3,000 or something like that. One of them is more stronger than the 3, something like that.
Yeah, it definitely having all of that put into one enemy is, you know, a bit annoying. We do see a character who At least on my side, I would love to be getting that Palom from Baron in, and then getting Palom those levels from Zot as well, because it is 9,000 XP as well as 5,500, I believe, or 6,500 from the second spot. So that's the better part of the way to Quake that you'd be getting on the Palom just by going through Zot. Unfortunately, we see the Dolls, which is not a blue robe, not the boss we're looking for, and we also see an Edward. Edward is, well, a character that exists. We're gonna call him an anchor, but yeah, that's a character that can fill a spot in the party and nothing more. You're really hoping to hit something like a Fusoya here, which that is exactly what John Birckhead finds. So that Fusoya, while not extremely powerful yet, will drive John Birckhead to do some extra things, such as, an antlion cave, such as potentially a waterfall, a mist cave, and get those extra spells on Fusoya to really push him, further and further. But there's a Twin Harp and Baron as well, so we already have access to the Tower of Zod objective, excuse me, the Earth Crystal objective, the Twin Harp objective. Once we get underground, the lower Tower of Babel's available, Darkness Crystal's Cave Bahamut, and then we just need to find a gauntlet and one other thing. Pretty jetty seed finding those two right away. This is a little spooky on John Birckhead's side. This is a very scary ruby, but we do have a Blizzard Spear, and this is going to chunk right through this ruby. One more hit from the Blizzard Spear, and John Birckhead will be through this. But this is a very scary fight with pretty much anyone but a Blizzard Spear edge.
It's also kind of appropriate that the palette that got rolled for an edge, or at least this particular edge, happens to be the Sub-Zero one. So it is in a sense kind of appropriate that this Sub-Zero edge is using a Blizzard Spear. So I was also going to point out, when Eizan was doing the check at the Baron Inn, which ended up resulting in the Twin Harp, King Queen Evelyn was sitting on the Baron guards. So it's a waste of a free boss, but hey, there's plenty of other free bosses in the pool. So, and if it's worth it, a Twin Harp, so be it. Oh, that's a hook.
Yeah, gonna be pretty hard to avoid Tower of Zot on this one, because that is a hook that pops out. That is what I would say immediately bad news for Eizan. And the reason I say that is because Eizan is currently on Mount Ordeals. And typically you go up Ordeals for one or two things. One is to try to hit a gauntlet, and the other is to try to route in XP. Now, Zot handles a lot of the XP and 2 checks at a gauntlet. This also means the hook cannot be on Ordeals, and that Eizan is likely going to last location this hook on the overworld, because the natural routing is going to take you Twin Harp into Zot. Unless you're looking to get exit first on Rosa, but either way, this is a bit of a rough early sequence for Eizan. Just based on the key item location. So he's going to have this work cut out a little for him. Also, with that Fusoya getting powered up on John Birckhead's side, that's going to give him a pretty big natural advantage right off the jump here too, having access to that Fu for other checks that, Edge doesn't just burn right through.
Yeah, and this is something that this play that John Birckhead made to go up to Zod this early on ends up working out, and with John Birckhead heading into Baron Inn, it's just gonna that Twin Harp is gonna naturally flow through. Eizan does take down a back attack Odin, looking like to be a very summon heavy ordeals, where we had an Azura on Mylon and Friends spot.
So Leviathan or Bahamut next?
It would complete it. So,
but this will be interesting. Eizan, I think, really needs Ordeals to have value here, because this is going to be something that I think John fades for a while. And a black belt is not value. Do we see a blue robe? We see a sparkle. That is not the value Eizan is looking for. The black belt is nice. Wyvern is kind of whatever because that Dragon Whip is going to melt that Wyvern. And yeah, 6,200 damage. So yeah, I think this is, potentially rough for Eizan, speak of Bahamut, especially if the Gauntlet shows up somewhere on kind of the natural path of the seed. That we might be looking at Eizan having to make a real big play, to get things moving in his direction on this seed. They did go ahead and do a lot of the same things in their game one, and it was very, very close. They've diverged rapidly in this particular seed, and chat is pointing out John Birckhead may be incentivized to do ordeals to get more spells on Fusoya. So that is a very good point from chat as well.
Yeah, and this makes sense because if you're not familiar with Free Enterprise, Fusoya works way differently compared to what it is in the vanilla game. Because the fact that Fusoya could show up at any point in the game, it wouldn't make sense to just give you a 1900 HP every spell in the game Fusoya if you just find him in one of the character checks. But you could set it up like that if you toggled the vanilla flag for it. But instead, what we do is every time you defeat a boss, Fusoya gets a random set of black magic and white magic for each, and then gets 100 HP per boss kill up until 1900, and you get your full power.
Yeah, and the spells are generally incentivized as well, so that you pick up more powerful spells later in the list. Things like Nuke, Quake, White, Berserk, Meteo, things like that are generally weighted further down. However, something that may disincentivize John from doing, well, anything out of the way now is that was 1100 HP Quake, and that is the single best spell on this flag set that Fu can learn. Because that gives you full access to get to do things like Sylph right away when you get underground, the Warrior's Chest, etc. So that is something that will be very interesting to see how John routes from here. For Eizan, this play makes a lot of sense going after his objectives, going after this Twin Harp as soon as he can, also still not yet having the hook, which again we know comes from the Tower of Zot. So Eizan going to be doing the Twin Harp here, then straight into Zot and the Flame Dog also makes a lot of sense from a routing perspective. So the runners are making the best decisions that they have with available information, which is great to see. And plus, we also now get a random tune from the harp. What are you hoping for? What category or genre, Professor Renderer?
Something I recognize. Simple enough. I don't know anything about Xenogears. I don't know anything about Lunars or anything like that. Something I recognize.
Gotcha. Well, I am hoping for Final Fantasy Mystic Quest or 9. Those are what I'm hoping for over here. So we'll see what we get, because this is the part where we have to stop talking or they'll mute us and kick us out of comms. Enjoy, y'all. We now have two objectives down on Eizan's side. The Twin Harp completed, gets a rat tail for his troubles. And John Birckhead, meanwhile, found the guards in Fabul, but I missed the reward. But Eizan also found a Val at that Twin Harp. That's not really a pleasant fight, but a small benefit for Eizan at least is that Fu is not going to help whatsoever against that Val. So that's going to be, a bit of a game evener, if you will, as far as that one particular fight's concerned.
Yeah, and that Val fight was back to one track from Lunar, which I know it exists. I never played it.
Yeah, I played the games, a lot of the series 20 years ago, I want to say. Something like that. I remember playing it as a teenager. And yeah, it was fun. Null was my favorite character because, well, cats and dragons are cute. And anyway, we won't spoil it for you if you ever play it. Not that there's really a spoiler window on 20-year-old games, but it's okay. Moving on, we have Eizan doing Zot as expected. John Birckhead going to do some extra boss peeks here. Look for the gauntlet. Going to find his antlion, and looks like he is opting to take said antlion, not resetting right away. Going to bop this Eddie here and then blast a spell of some sort, while Eizan likely going to be taking the doggo to get his pass, and then taking Zot to get his Fusoya and his Edward as well. So going to pick up an anchor and a very nice mage. One potential issue for Eizan is he did reset out of Antlion, and potentially might have reset out of Fabul, I don't recall. Was that Nuke as well on Fusoya?
Yes, I did see Nuke.
Well, okay. Pyre, can you roll my Fu Seeds? This is 1400 fully loaded Fusoya. Come on.
Yeah, the food challenge is can really throw a curve, some fun things at you if you can get that nuke relatively early, and if you can, well, you not only got a powerful spell in your hand, but if you got like as we're seeing here, Quake, you could double this as you could double Fusoya as a sweeper.
Yeah, Fusoya being able to just Quake both the Staleman chest and the Black Cat Lamia chest here, and then potentially Stone. I would personally never attempt an off-slot Stone, but I know many folks love to cast a spell and have success with it. So, we'll see if John goes for an off-slot Stone or an on-slot Stone, or how he sets up for the Ogres. But also of note, we don't have John looting out any of Eblin. And if I'm not mistaken, Eizan has not looted or done Eblin either. So we're potentially going to get the rare no Eblin loot. Now, the starting Earth Crystal, of course, dictates a lot of that. But just very interesting with how popular Eblin has been in general in this tournament.
Yeah, Eblin is one of the many starting points that you can do in this flag set, on account of the fact that you have the vanilla trap setting on, where now you don't have to worry about spending like 6 minutes trying to reset out of every fights of trap chests just to find what you all the stuff that doesn't have traps in it. And in this case, since the runners know where the traps are located, they can simply just avoid the trap chests and to loot out Eblin really quickly, and then prioritize traps on a later date, or sometimes during the same trip, depending on what they get.
Yeah, and interesting here, just kind of peeking into the menuing of John there. He went and put a longsword on Palom, and he was putting other metallic type gear on people during that fight. So he was actually using that fight as a way to prep for his metallic stuff for the Twin Harp. Very kind of interesting, slightly niche application of using a fight there to do all that. Is going to pop back into the menu a little bit here, but just very cool to see that level of optimization. Is a little bit interesting to see Eblin being done first, before going into the Twin Harp check here. But, was definitely cool to see that optimization there, but maybe worried about not having enough magnetization, or was potentially misclicked because he has re-equipped Palom now with full mage gear, so might not have enough on everyone and may just be going through and just doing virus strats or something like that to off everybody in the party quickly. We'll see how Eizan handles this Ruby, though. Was able to get through the Demas pretty quickly by comparison to John Birckhead, and is able to just one tap with the Blizzard Spear and one Quake, and is going to be through this Ruby. So quite a bit faster there, getting through Zot for Eizan, which is not terribly surprising, given that he waited a little bit to do that.
Yeah, compared to what John Birckhead did, Eizan had already been equipped with a couple of items and already has a pretty decent team and some bosses underneath, so that Eizan can just blast through this Zot. Whereas John had chosen to do the Zot play right pretty much at the word go upon seeing the Earth Crystal. So it was a lot more slower because John only had 2 characters and nearly deep vanilla setups. All right, more Lunar.
Oh, but we can keep talking, right?
Or maybe.
Yeah, let's do it.
So in the meantime, Eizan is getting ready for this rat tail turn-in. Leads only to a Leviathan summon.
Yeah, just a Leviathan summon, but we'll let Eizan dictate where he goes after this, and we'll give you all a little bit more Lunar here, since there's not too much to talk about at the moment. So enjoy some more tunes, y'all. But not too many tunes, because we don't want y'all to forget that there's an exciting, amazing race happening in between, these 2 runners, John Birckhead and Eizan, both masterfully getting their way through this seed. That rat tail we know is not going to lead to much at all. Now, I do believe with the time that John Birckhead spent on some other checks, that Eizan certainly is closing the distance here. John is currently up the Eblin Trap chess, and Eizan is currently up Ordeals and Fabul Defense. John Birckhead's stream also is about 30 seconds behind, just, natural Twitch delays and things like that. So I think John is probably fractionally ahead, but it's really not that much in the grand scheme of things. He will likely be the first one underground, but he'll have less information to work with, and we'll have to come back and do Fabul at some point, certainly. May also be save scumming and heading up Ordeals now, or save scumming and turning the rat tail in. Could be a couple different approaches here. Looks like it's a save scum with the rat tail.
Yeah, and this won't be that big of a deal for John Birckhead once he sees that this is just Leviathan summon. Yeah, there's the save scum coming out from John Birckhead, and now we're heading down to Eblin Cave.
Yeah, so no Ordeals on John's side, and we are being informed John did Fabul. Apologies, I missed that. So it is just an Ordeals difference here. And yeah, John Birckhead going to be the first to show us what is usually the best shop in the game because it's the first gated one you see, and you're looking for things like Ether 2s, Cure 3s, potentially to buy black belts. Also, the first real chance you get to clear out your inventory. And there's some Cure 3s. We'll definitely pick up some of those. Looks like we're getting a 6-pack, and we're going to get, I think, 99 carats because memes. Always let your dreams and memes become reality. And we'll see what else shows up here. Not a whole lot in the weapon shop, and the armor shop has even less. So we get some carrots and Cure 3s.
And the carrots are the more important thing. That's it.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't buy them, but that's because I'm a terrible person who also doesn't do things like check the job dwarf or, try to check the twin heart. So.
Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, I'm the one who would probably check job dwarf, not even in this flag set, but just in flag sets where shops are important.
And we do see a little bit of strength here on the way down here. A bandana shows up, which is kind of nice. Also, a rune ring that shows up, which can be nice because it gives you a little bit of extra black magic boost. We'll see if John gets the buffer here on the Quake for the Staleman. He does. Quake has an ATB delay effectively of 4, so you can get it to fire even on a 2-enemy encounter like this. Is rewarded, we'll say in air quotes, with a sand ruby. It's a key item, but realistically, this party is already Z ready as far as its composition. This is a potential concern for Eizan. That is a blue robe on the hook route. One of the things we were kind of talking about earlier was if a blue robe shows up in the natural path of things, that puts ordeals off for John, which means that would effectively be dead time for Eizan. So for Eizan, he needs this to be a water hag. For John, he wants this to be a gauntlet. That's also a Porum that is showing up. Porum could, in theory, replace Palom here, but we're probably just saying no to the... Interesting, saying no to the Edward. If we haven't found any drain equipment, this makes sense because that Porum would be 7 agility as opposed to Edward's 9, which makes anchoring a little bit easier. Means Fusoya is naturally relative agility 1. I don't know what our situation is on drain equipment, though.
I think we hadn't seen a whole lot of drain equipment, so I didn't see a whole lot when looking through the menus. So it might just be that John would want to pick this up knowing that he doesn't have drain and would want drain equipment, and he would want to use Porum as his anchor as opposed to Eddie.
Yeah, just the natural base difference of 9 for Eddie versus 7 for Porum can make a big difference. We'll see. Yeah, looks like we're going to get a virus here on Porum, committing to the Porum anchor. But yeah, looks like we have a bunch of plus agility gear, but no minus agility gear. So the Porum makes a lot of sense instead of the Edward. Just getting that bonus 2 agility difference makes a huge deal as well. Just allowing Fusoya to sweep and having more actors in the queue. Just overall going to make things just a smidge easier. So pretty heads up without having any train equipment as of yet. And another key item shows up, a Luca key. That gives us 6 key items and a pass on the overworld. So relatively generous overworld, all things considered.
Yeah, and there's we got some good stuff out of it. We have progress towards 10 key items, which in this flag set really doesn't matter. Because we can rely on trap chest as our main source of XP. A very popular choice ends up being the Sylph Cave basement, where you get 6 trap chests.
Yeah, I know that it depends on how the seed breaks down, but I like to use Sylph at 10 key items as my grind if possible. So I am interested to see if our runners go through and opt to wait or if they opt to go to Sylph right away, you can get a ton of power there. Speaking of a ton of power, if you don't clear these imps out real fast here, this is an absolutely disgusting spot for the Dark Imps to be, but Quake makes very easy work of them, effectively trivializing that fight. But that is an incredibly punchy fight, and would in normal circumstances be really rough. However, Quake handles it easily, and this is a big moment here. Do we have a freebie or a required objective? I didn't see a delay. However, it does look like it is the gauntlet. That is not good for Eizan. If you're an Eizan fan, you really wanted to see a water hag there, because this disincentivizes John from going to Mount Ordeals, which means that is dead time that Eizan has to make up now.
Yeah, but this being on the path, John is only about halfway through the required objectives that he would need to complete. You need to finish 6 of the 7 objectives in order to win the crystal to face off against Zeromus. And with this being on the path, as you mentioned, this will consider John will consider that the ordeal is going to be accursed, and he'll have better options coming down the road compared to ordeals.
Yeah, it's worth noting that we're going to find a darkness crystal at some point, and that basically means that we are a magma key from go mode, because we have the Twin Harp done, the Earth Crystal done, the Gauntlet now is going to be done, Lower Babel is required and accessible, the Cave Bahamut check is available with a Darkness Crystal once found, which means a magma key at any location underground, and that is just straight up go mode, could be very fast. If you have like a magma key and a Darkness Crystal in, the Lower Babel Tower, for example, or Sylph Cave or Feymarch Freebie, like those are all things that our runners can be done with in the next 10 to 15 minutes. We could have go mode sub 50 minutes on this and be tracking towards potentially a sub-hour seed. So it'll be very interesting to see how our runners route the underground, if they do the same things, if they do different things. Well, there's our water hag, a bit of a Spider-Man pointing meme with some blue robes at the top of towers. So that water hag also is just super free, very easy to clear, probably incentivizes to tower immediately rather than Sylph.
Yeah, with water hag just being 3 hits and you're through, regardless of the HP, this just makes getting the Lower Babel objective done like a major priority. Even if you're dealing with 2 less trap chests, although we are seeing an audible come out from John Birckhead and going to go and do the warrior chest, as well as the Feymarch freebie. That's not a bad idea either. You know that you have a very powerful sweeper in the form of Fusoya's Quake, so the warrior chest will not be a big deal for him. And then on top of that, you have another objective, or not objective. You have another key item check with that Feymarch freebie.
Yeah, we have Eizan was able to get a stone cast off and took out the Dark Imps, so we saw Quake and Stone. We see Quake come out from John Birckhead. The Warriors have 2400 HP, that Quake did 2800 to 3300 and was able to dispatch them. There's a Murasame, so there is some agility manipulation. You might think, oh, it's a legendary holy sword, etc. That'll be great. We definitely want that. And unfortunately, the Murasame is best used literally as just the way to reduce agility for people. That is a darkness crystal. That means we are a magma key or forge from go mode. So yeah, I think you have to rush the Tower of Babel right now, because that's where your objective is. If the top of tower holds a magma key, for example, you just gotta go and you gotta do it. I do think this is the rare situation where you don't do the traps on the way up, that you look to specifically do the top of tower first, because if that is the magma key, you are just quite simply in go mode at that point. Zoom, zoom, bada boom. So I think this is a rare situation where I would skip the traps on the way up, just from a god routing standpoint, if you will. But, you know, there's certainly some merit in doing them as well. Chances for extra key items to get to 10, maybe do Sylph as a grind anyway. So certainly get it. Uh, just don't necessarily like it as much in this exact situation. We did see on Eizan's side, a couple levels got onto Eddie, which is going to mess up some agility a little bit there. The Murasame will help that from the Staleman, or excuse me, from the Warrior chest. But hey, we got a Crystal Sword on John Birckhead's side as well, so that's going to be pretty nice also.
Yeah, and another thing I forgot to mention with the with the dual wielding of weapons, any two-handed weapons like axes, that not specific and not throwing axes in particular, can be held in one hand. So if you had, let's say, like a poison axe, you can also wield a crystal sword in its place. So it's also a good something to point out here. Uh, yeah, a crystal sword here is great. You always want to see a crystal sword, because that's your big damage coming through. John Birckhead's getting through these alerts really quickly. It only just takes like one hit, so it's a bit of a time sink, but it's not as bad if you, like, let's say you did it like first thing.
Yeah, it's definitely not as bad if you do it right away. A little interesting. We said no to a Dwarf Axe there, but we already have a Murasame for Porum, so we can drop her to 2 agility as it is. The Dwarf Axe did also give John Birckhead the inventory boss, I believe, and so he's just saying, yeah, I don't really care about that. Not a big deal. 2 agility is, good enough. And even if Porum gains some levels, even if she gets like 10 or 12 agility, she's still going to be dropped down to, what, 10, 12, 14 agility. Still perfectly manageable with the agility pluses that we have, so it's not really a concern as long as she stays alive. Stays on the ground, unalived, if you will. On Eizan's side, a level 11 Eddie is a little more concerning, because that is going to push him to probably like 13 agility with no manipulation yet. But we do have Eizan going straight up to tower, opting not to go to the Feymarch first. So right now, John Birckhead's lead is 4 tower trap chests, the Warrior chest in Feymarch, and the Feymarch freebie, which is the Darkness Crystal. So we'll see if that lead extends, or if Eizan is able to make up some time. But looks like that Earth Hammer one-shotting those alerts is going to pick up John a little bit of time here, where Eizan is taking 2 shots, looks like, to get through this.
Yeah, and so we do find a spoon on the top of Lower Babel. So hey, that's another useful weapon that we have. But I think the crystal sword will do just fine.
Yeah, this does also mean that we are guaranteed 10 key items for a potential grind later on, because even if the absolute next check that John does is a magma key, that means that turn in magma key, do Cave Bahamut, that's 10 key items once you get the crystal. So at least on John's side, and this will likely end up being true on Eizan's side as well, based on the key item distribution, our runners are not going to have experience concerns, even as fast as a seed potentially could be. Now there's also the potential that, let's say the Baron key and the Pan are buried on the moon, and they have half a forge and the magma key behind them. There's potential that this is not going to be a fast seed. It just has all the makings of one right at this moment.
Yeah, and this has definitely been something that of a quick one in respect to John Birckhead. It looked like John was going to head towards Sylph. I guess that may have been a mispress on John's side. But we are going to eventually see the Sylph play, specifically the basement. Maybe we'll do Toad Lady, but we're more focused on the basement.
Yeah, what John was doing there is he was trying to remember where he had placed his ribbon and where his breath protection was. So I think that one of the things that he may not have known is that the rune ring gives mute protection already. And so he was looking for the ribbon or other things he could equip. Maybe thinking like a bandana was a headband, which would prevent charm. But it's just one of those things where it's very hard to keep track of all the different immunities that you get. And it's just one of those things where, you know, there's so much equipment to memorize and every little thing that they all do. So he's, you know, he got there, he got the ribbon on his foo. It's all going to work out just fine. And then we'll see, you know, if he's able to get through all of these cleanly without any issues. I know that, you know, that can always be a struggle if your buffering isn't perfect. So we'll see if John Birckhead's able to cleanly get through the poison treasury here, picks up a power shirt for his troubles from the first chest. Eizan, meanwhile, got through the tower, was able to pick up his spoon and also his fourth objective. So we are tied on objectives for runners. John is up a little bit of ground on the Feymarch checks and a couple Sylph boxes. Eizan still has that Ordeals check. If we don't get Go Mode on the blue planet, it's not unreasonable to expect John to go up Ordeals, but he also may opt not to. And, you know, again, if you're an Eizan fan, you want to see John at least at some point double back to Ordeals.
Yeah, and because that Ordeals did not lead to anything. In the meantime, John did find another crystal star, but we're good with the other one as it is. We do find a pink tail, so that does lead to another key item and one more towards that double XP, which it doesn't, in this case, shouldn't matter because we are still doing these the basement checks for your grind.
Yeah, and another great use of buffering there by John Birckhead is the second chest that he's had two enemies on. That was the double mobile, which can breath, and he also did it with the Stalemen on the hook route. He's gotten both of his buffers off on his Quake cast on two enemy encounters, which is very important to do. They're tough encounters to make work right. So that's something that very, very well done execution-wise, and something that if you're not familiar, you know, with free enterprise or, you know, buffering and things like that, basically that is using the run buffer mechanic from the vanilla game, where as long as a text box is on the screen, the ATB basically doesn't progress. So it allows you to kind of cheat inputs into the system, if you will, faster than the game likely ever intended you to do. And by utilizing those run buffering techniques, you can actually get extra inputs and actions from what you would be able to otherwise. So really well done by John. We'll see if Eizan is able to duplicate that. But John very quickly and expertly getting through the back part of the poison treasury there in Sylph Cave. You know, we'll hope that both runners can do the same there and stay on kind of level footing in that regard.
So of note within that basement, we did see the tower key, which it's a little scary, but we did get 10 key items out of it. Because the tower key, if John could be led back into Lower Babel to take care of a super cannon. But if that doesn't lead to anything, for John Birckhead, it's better for him to go up to the moon as opposed to doing the ordeal, because that would give time back to Eizan. But it seems like John Birckhead is not interested in doing the tower super cannon. Makes sense. You're going to serve that as, like, for now, as 10 key items, and we are going to go ahead and raise the Lunar Whale here.
Yeah, using the cutscenes here for both the mountain and Agert and the moon may also be giving John time to think and kind of survey where he's at. This is something that I know a lot of folks, myself included, like to do, is use these cutscenes to think and be like, okay, let me weigh my options here. I have Sheila 1 that I just set up. I picked up a tower key. I've got the Luca key. I've got Dwarf. Am I willing to go to the moon fading that much? Or do I need to do some of these checks to kind of close down some potential outs? Or am I just simply going to play the, the pure percentage game? Do my freebie checks, that Sheila 1 check, do heavily weighted traps such as the hairdryer trap just on the moon, and then go like straight to the bottom of the moon. Uh, with a pass in hand, it does incentivize targeting the bottom of the moon. But we do see a save here coming out from John, so likely at least going to be doing Sheila 1, but we'll see what he does with the other fades that he's made so far. It swings a right and passes on ordeals, which makes a lot of sense. The magma key cannot be on ordeals, so there's little impetus to chase that. And we'll see, what pops out of Sheila 1 here. If this is the magma key, for example, that is horrendous for Eizan and great for John. If it's half a forge, that becomes really spooky as to whether you go to the moon or not. So a real big moment here. Just a dragon whip is an easy reset. Does John go Luca? Does he go tower? Does he go moon? Dwarf is off the table, so we'll see what the options are. Setting up with an earth hammer and a crystal sword tells me we might be going giant first here for the last arm. It looks to be the case. He's going to one-shot the last arm here with the earth hammer crystal sword combo. This is an interesting play, not doing the hairdryers and the objective cave Bahamut first.
I think in this case, you want to just you want to knock out a potential reset, I guess, save scum option, which the giant is one of those examples, and it's not as like in John's mind, it's not a bad find, not a bad play to make compared to something like Dwarf, because he, as you mentioned, Dwarf is in his mind off. He knows that he doesn't need to do that. He doesn't want to. He knows that he probably may not come back to it unless he's going on a last location spree. But even then, he's probably thinking, okay, it's more likely if I am in this last location spree, it's more likely that I don't do last or the dwarf cave or the dwarf castle just on just percentages alone. Right. So this last arm is more likely my best bet here. And it's only Artemis arrows, so yeah, you just reset out of that and you just go up to the moon.
Yeah, and so John is saying no to the tower key, which came from Sylph, no to the Luca cave. And that Luca key was available on the hook route, if I remember correctly. I think it was the Mad Ogres. Or that might have been the Sand Ruby. Either way. And opting for the hair dryers next. So playing the 1-of-1 game. These are effectively the same weight as checks like the tower, as checks like Luca Cave. The interesting thing about the last arm check is it takes just as long a time as it does to go through and do something like the tower or the Luca Peak. So it is a little interesting that, with all those weights being roughly the same, that we opted for, what is a longer check than some of the shorter ones. So definitely interested to inquire with John, regardless of outcome of the race, the decision point there. We did see Eizan, meanwhile, had a bit of an issue with one of the ghost trap chests. They were able to get actions off before he could quake, and lost a little bit of time there. So his back of Sylph not quite as clean as John's, and we'll see, what becomes of that. May lead him to stay on Earth, or may lead him to do something of a bit of a gamble play and maybe go like middle out moon and focus on trap chests. It'll be very interesting to see how this gets routed. One of the things about this tournament is, given all of the incredible racers that we have in this thing, in the entire bracket stage, we are in the round of 8. There are exactly one runner remaining who is yet to drop a game in the bracket stage. That runner is John Birckhead. Every single other runner, either by their own doing, their opponent's doing, routing, whatever it may be with the seed, etc., every single other person has dropped a game in the tournament so far in the bracket stage. So pretty incredible run by John so far. We'll see if he can, keep that going in this particular race, or if, that routing is going to get the better of him tonight. So, regardless, again, pretty incredible going this deep as the only undefeated runner left in the tournament.
Yeah, and this only shows why he's currently poised as the only undefeated runner in this tournament, in the tournament so far. He has been playing very smart. He's been making the right calls in his mind, and reading the logic, playing it at a good level execution wise. So and all this praise as he takes down this Leviathan on this cave Bahamut for the fourth for objective number 4 and total number 5.
Yeah, and big moments here. This is kind of what I was curious about, how Eizan was going to route things here. Going up to do that tower check. So the tower check is in play for Eizan, which may also mean that that the Luca cave could be in order here. We see John is heading back to the blue planet. So I wonder if this was a play to do those 2 trap chests, those 1-of-1s, which are basically the same weights as K-Main, get the objective Cave Bahamut out of the way, and then come back and do things like the tower and Luca. This is the same type of thing that he did in their last race, so not out of character. Also, he has a save on the moon, so if he zonks on any of these checks, he can just immediately kind of warp himself back to the moon. I would expect Luca and Tower to be on the cards here. I would not expect Dwarf to be on the cards in John's situation, but we shall see. Meanwhile, Eizan dispatches a Pale Dim at the Tower key, and John Birckhead going to go through the sealed cave here first. This is a peekable item. John does still have 2 gating key items remaining in the Baron key and the Pan, that he'd be incentivized but really mad about having to walk out of the cave. Whereas in Eizan's shoes, if this tower key hits one of those, he's in a much better spot to either chase or not chase, since he wouldn't have to worry about a boss after getting the item, and kind of that decision is made for him. So very interested to see, and we'll find out about the same time from our runners what's going to come from Sealed Cave and the Super Cannon reward here. It should be near simultaneous from our runners, so that's going to be pretty neat to get as well.
Yeah, so Eizan will leave the Lower Babel, and so this is going to be a big moment here. Let's see if any of these lead to a progression, either in Magma Key for Go Mode or Forge pieces. It is a Forge piece for Eizan.
Yeah,
and
ooh. Yeah, Charm Rod, not what you want there. Eizan surveying the skies, maybe searching the skies. Nope, that's the wrong game. That's Worlds Collide. That's Final Fantasy VI. Has the Adamant Rock deciding where he wants to go. Looks like Eizan is saying, I am going to Earth. I am going to make the Dwarf Castle play. This is possibly Eizan thinking there's no way John is going to do this with the gauntlet done already. And I am going to do this because I think with the troubles I had, on Ordeals, or not troubles, but just Ordeals zonking, and having an issue in Sylph, a little bit of one, maybe straight up thinking if I go the optimal, air quote, optimal route through the seed at this point, that I'm just flat out behind, and maybe doing this as a countermeasure. Also, the Earth Crystal, that was fast for him, but he got that Fusoya considerably later, and maybe thinking that he's a little behind from that too. So it could just be simply a play where Eizan is doing this because he knows John won't, forcing the divergence and trying to win the race, not caring if he loses by 20 minutes by making these plays, simply saying, I want to make these plays and try to win this race, even if it means I end up getting blown out in the process. Because a 3-minute loss means nothing versus a 20-minute loss, but a 2-minute win versus a 3-minute loss means a whole lot of difference. So I like the logic if that's the case from Eizan from a gamesmanship perspective.
Yeah, and this Dark Knight Cecil, this won't be that terrible. He's not doing a whole lot of damage on these dark waves, and Eizan is just gonna go ahead and say, or I don't need to do dark waves. I'm just gonna go Zerk up edge and just take him out just the regular way.
Yeah, there's two ways to approach Dwarf Castle. One is anchored, one is unanchored. The first spot is super slow, so you're actually making Cecil, in this case Dark Knight Cecil, faster, but you're generally set up better for the second spot this way. And by doing Zop, we knew that the dolls were here and that they were going to be quakeable, so this may have been a conscious decision by Eizan to be prepped to do Quake immediately in this fight. Knowing that the dolls were here from doing the Tower of Zop. And interestingly, John Birckhead going to do Dwarf here. I am very surprised by this. This will, though, make it incredibly interesting if either the other half of Forge or the Magma Key is here, because that would put Eizan up that Dwarf Castle check effectively, but down the Cave Bahamut check. They'd be relatively level on their experience, but John would then not have to go back to the moon. So pretty interesting for John to do this. And this may be him also saying that the only thing I'm not doing is ordeals. I wonder if he does go and spy ordeals, though. While Eizan is going to get as his reward from Dwarf Castle the other half of Forge. And so that is go mode for both runners, because of course it would be Dwarf. Why wouldn't it be Dwarf?
Yeah, and this so I still think John is ahead here, on account of finishing the the Cave Bahamut finish, because this will be a Forge finish, and the Forge is so easy to complete, and it's also relatively quick, that all you have to do is Forge and then just take the pass up to Troya and then fight Z. And so I think if Eizan were to, if this ended up being a Zonk, we wouldn't have, it wouldn't, I think Eizan could try and find some way to claw back at it, but even then, I don't know. I think John would still somewhat edge it out just by execution.
Yeah, John would have been still favored, but it would have given Eizan a lane back into things. With that being the Forge, I think that, even though it gives Eizan go mode, from our view, our eyes in the sky, that was probably the worst possible outcome for Eizan. The fact that he got go mode when John had doubled back to clear the Earth and is effectively also going to get go mode, but is up the Cave Bahamut check already, plus some extra levels from the hair dryers. So John is ready to go. He's going to go Forge. He's going to get his 6th objective. We got a Loki's loot, by the way, which is cool, but not particularly helpful when we have a bunch of crystal swords. I think we're likely going to see duo Zerk here. My assumption is either Rosa or Palom is going to be the second Zerker. Edge is going to be the primary Zerker, and then they kind of figure it out from there. This is likely a 2 Big Bang, potentially even 2 Big Bang and Rocks type of Z fight. It really depends where we end up. Looks like John is going to do a little bit of purchasing here. Curious what he's opting to purchase. Maybe setting up even for Tri-Zerker, buying a light sword, or buying a bunch of tiaras and trying to push extra reflected damage. Looks like he's going to go that route. So a Fusoya with 3 tiaras and a couple of charm rods, that's plus 50 wisdom on nukes. That's going to be a lot of extra damage if that's what he opts to do as well. So very interested to see how John constructs his Z fight here. Eizan, I think, is going to be a much more clear-cut 2 Zerker fight. John might be going 2 Zerkers and 1 very angry Fusoya with a whole bunch of pretty princess gear.
So John Birckhead is the first, well, not the first one, but like, oh no, he's the first one with the crystal, right? Because Eizan still has to do Bahamut. So he's off to Troya. He's gonna get ready for this this fight here. Just doing some final preparations before heading into Troya and turning in that pass. And yeah, in the meantime, Eizen's also getting preparations ready for this Cave Bahamut play that will result in him getting that last objective to get the crystal.
Yeah, so looks like we have Crystal Sword on edge here with some strength here, and we have Spoon Excal on Palom as our secondary Zerker. We have triple Tiara and some black magic gear on Fusoya for John. And we also have Z flags in chat. Chat has come well equipped tonight, and those Z flags, we got to hear some random tunes from the harp from the Lunar series, and I know that those Z flags indicate something special. I've heard that it involves butts, but not the character. Butts of another sort. Professor Renderer, why don't you do the honors on this one?
Okay, so we've seen plenty of randomized bosses in this seed, but the only exception to that is Zeromus. Because Zeromus has this big scrap and a big bang, we can't really move him anywhere, because if we put him in, like, let's say, I don't know, Baron Inn, it would be really painful to get through. So instead, we choose to have Zeromus play as a mix of 600, about 500, 600 different sprites. And I'm running out of time here. So the question is, whose butt are we going to kick tonight? And random questions like, can I help you with my 401k? Is the butt cute? And other things.
Yeah, does it have a hat? Etc., so on and so forth. Well, it doesn't have a hat. I mean, cute is up to interpretation. I'm sure some folks would say yes. I do want to point out that we have a lot of damage here. However, this fight is not free. 5,600 from Edge, 3,100 from Palom, 8,500 damage, give or take. That is right in the Wombo combo danger zone. John Birckhead ideally wants this counter nuke to hit either Rosa or Porum. Fu is the next option there. Edge is the worst option. If Edge dies here, okay, Edge dodge. That's good for John. Edge going down there would have taken out a ton of DPS, which would have been really bad. So able to get through that, get a Cure 3 off, bring the Edge back to life here. But we need to pay attention to the damage range here. 6,400, 2,400. That's again that 8 to 9k range. So I think John's decision here to push damage with this Fu is going to get him past that threshold if we're pushing damage. But looks like maybe we are queuing up a Cure spell here and then hopefully pushing some reflected nukes, because otherwise it could potentially be dangerous. Yeah, looks like there's a reflected nuke, but John's got to get this right, because, as interesting as this race has been, as close as these runners have been, but, John's seemingly been ahead by a little bit the majority of this race. If he doesn't get this correct, this is Eizan's race to take. So this has to be correct this first time for John. And that is what so many of these races have come down to, is any wipes in the Z fight. And you're going to have a bad day. So we see another reflected nuke come out from Fu. We see Porum getting res. This means that John may also be intending to nerf this second Big Bang as well, just in case his damage range isn't where it needs to be. But I do have a feeling we're going to skip second Big Bang with that extra damage from Fusoya and just go straight into rocks. And so I don't think we're going to be worrying about a Wombo combo on John's side with that extra damage just coming out. There's a shake, but I don't think that shake is ever really going to fire.
Eizan now enters the Zeromus fight, and as that happens, we get fireworks, a snap, crackle, and pop, and John Birckhead will take this race and this series with an official time of 1:06:53, and John Birckhead will punch his ticket into the semifinals.
Yeah, Final Four for John Birckhead. That is his deepest run in a tournament, and we'll see if we can get him in for an interview to talk about it, see how he's feeling. The difference on this one Zeromus fight. Also, potentially the difference in this could come down to that ordeals play from Eizan. So, we'll see if we can get John in. I think that is him buzzing in our ear right now. GG's to you, John Birckhead, remaining undefeated, the only undefeated runner left in the bracket stage.
Thank you very much, and GG's to Eizan, of course.
So, John, I wanted to ask, right off the bat, you're starting high power, Earth Crystal, Edge, all the things you could want in the world, and kind of eschewing some standard logic and some more conservative, play perhaps. You decided, you know what, I would love to just go straight up the Tower of Zot. What kind of drove you right away to do that?
The past few seeds have not exactly been flush with power, at all, in any way, shape, or form. So I think, absence makes the heart grow fonder. So seeing like an Edge and actual, power and weapons, I just wanted to go. With a Rosa start, you might not get exit, and sure, we could look around for characters to see if someone will have it, but early exit. And you want to be fast anchored for the first spot so that you can sit at DMS for 4 minutes, and then you want to be slow anchored at the second spot. And you figure I pick up some character. Hopefully, I can't imagine it'd be 2 dupes, and I could go ahead and slow anchor with whomever that was. So I just figured I had the means. You have the HP totals. We had a good amount of the gear, and we'll just figure it out. Let's go. So I went.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. And kind of fast forwarding a little bit. We see it coming up on the screen, 70 treasures. That's minus 5 minutes. So yeah, a good attempt, but you'll have to do better next time. Fast forwarding a little bit, the decision to go up to the moon initially to do cave value, hair dryers, last arm chest, before returning to the blue planet. This is something we've seen you do now 2 races in a row. Is this kind of standard practice for you, or something you've been weaving in a little different? Kind of take us through that without giving us the tricks of the trade and the secrets. What kind of is your general thought process on that?
I mean, I just like the checks, the 1-to-1 checks, as you know, and I'm sure chat knows at this point, it's basically the same as K-main. So, last arm is the only trap chest that's there. It's basically a K-main check. Hair dryers is basically a 1-to-1 there. And with the pass, I can go there, kind of, take care of the boss, and if go mode's up there, then great. And if not, just go through, do a sweep. I think I said this yesterday. I have like a general framework of what I like to do, but it's not a hard script. So that's not to say I won't do a moon dive if I'm feeling a certain kind of way, or if I have the power, or feel like I can get through quickly, or if I'm missing a lot of key items, or what have you. But it just seems like quick checks, last arm especially, with Gauntlet off the table. Also, seriously, Gauntlet again. same spot, same everything. With Gauntlet off the table, last arm is a very quick peek, um, and then if I find Forge or if I find Magma Key underground with the pass, I don't have to go back to the moon, so I can go ahead and kind of make a second pass there. So I think it's just a combination of the one-to-one trap checks, plus I had to go up there anyway to take out Cave Bahamut, and then coming back with maybe a little more power than I originally had to go even faster through the other spots.
Definitely makes sense. I have two more things I want to say, and then I'll kick it over to Professor Renderer if he has questions for you as well. The first that I want to say is GG's to Eizan coming in 110.51, slightly under a 4-minute difference. So just a heck of a run by both of y'all. Eizan proving that, just because he might be one of the old hats, certainly does not mean that he is out of form in any way, shape, or form. And the second is just wanted to say a little bit of a chef's kiss on the buffering for your Staleman chest and your 2 Marlboro chests. Very well done on the buffering in Sylph, on the hook route, etc., to get through all that.
Thank you. I've worked pretty hard at that, and I get especially nervous when it's foo, because there's that extra down input. I'm significantly more comfortable when it's a Palom and it's just one, or if I'm sweeping with a DKC, it's just one menu down. I don't know how all of you geniuses do what you do. I had to literally sit there and thank you. This is me accepting a compliment. Thank you. I had to really like, be like, all right, John, 1, 2, go. I was telling Scythe and Eizan before we started that I was using a PS3 controller and I had Turbo A mapped in there. And then, long story short, I set it up for Steam and then it didn't work on my emulator anymore. So I actually have my Turbo A like on my keyboard, like my typing keyboard. So I've got this weird like pinky thing going on. Like I just kind of like lean my hand in there, but I'm literally a classically trained pianist. So if like that can't do something, if I can't push a button with it, then what have I been doing all my life? So it has been a good amount of work. Regardless of what happens for the rest of the tournament, I think menuing and buffering this tournament has forced me to really get better at it. I'm certainly not where I want to be, but it means a lot from someone like you to notice the improvement. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. I need to get better at it myself, so I feel that. Professor Renderer, any questions for John? I apologize, kind of hogged the air a little bit there in the interview.
No, it's fine. So one thing that has been in my mind, and we were under the impression that you would not be doing the dwarf castle for some time. Yet after you did, I believe it was the it was the super cannon check. You chose to go for that over something like the moon, and more prominently the ordeals. Couldn't you get the rationale behind that? Like, what's the rationale behind that?
Magma Key logic. Ordeals can't have Magma Key. It could have Legend Sword and it could have Pan, which leads to Magma Key. So, by proxy, it could have that. But, we just continue to see that there's a decent chance that you might not have to do the moon at all. That's not always the case. I had a couple races with Flurry where we were up there for sure. But it just seems like, for whatever reason, whether it is mathematical anomaly or something in the algorithm that I don't understand, it just seems like it's like the old Dusty Griff method, like just like full clear the Earth before you go to the moon, and it just always seems that way. So since I was looking for Magma Key, and as a bonus, since I also need Legend Sword, I wanted to go to places where I could find both. You can't find both immediately at Ordeals. You can find both potentially at Dwarf. So since I was down there anyway, just kind of cleaning up the underworld, that's why I did it.
Yeah, and this was something that we talked about quite a bit. The fact that the magma key would not be is logically not supposed to be in ordeals, in which you are right. That is true, and yeah, it's good to know that having the knowledge of the logic in this particular flag set make makes a huge difference when determining what you want to do, heading towards like eyeing towards late game into end game.
Yeah, I mean, one of many, many things that I absolutely love about this community is that nobody like hogs knowledge. Everybody is incredibly generous with what they know, what they've shared. I mean, Morton was my supposed to be my first round opponent, which would have been an adventure, although Flirt was an adventure too. And I mean, he was literally like, "All right, John, here's how you beat me," and doing practice races with me. And um, your co-commentator over there is essentially my mentor, and I didn't exactly ask for permission. I just kept asking questions, and he kept answering them. So much like a possum that gets fed outside, and there, he just kind of encouraged my behavior. It's just such a kind community. They're just the nicest people, and so when the flag set came out and something like Omni is so incredibly different, people are trying to figure out what's the meta, right? Like what's the standard. We keep looking for new ways to go ahead and kind of make to innovate FE, and this flag set certainly did that. And it's fun. It's fun to discuss strategy and magma key logic and this, that, and the third. So it's just something that I've picked up because I get to be a part of this incredible community.
And you can join this wonderful community as well. We are always welcoming to new players. Um, Always join the Discord if you want to get some information. Um, and yeah, that's all I really got. But congratulations on your win and making it into the semifinals round. And yeah, we'll see how you do in the next round.
Yeah, I don't know. I did not think I'd be here. That's for sure. I feel very blessed. Pyre and Joe are both monsters, and I don't want to put this out there, but yeah, I'll put it out there. The one time I faced Joe on ladder, we tied. Actually, that's not true. We did Falcon percent. I lost by 20 minutes, and then we did a something on ladder. We literally tied down to the second. So whatever happens there, I'm sure it's going to be a lot. I'm going to have to be on my game. So. Thank you both so incredibly much. Thank you, Pyre, for restreaming, Garen for tracking, and GG's to Eizan. Just amazing runner, very kind person. Was incredibly flexible with his work schedule, with my work and dad's schedule, so that we could get these in. So thank you all so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, have a good night.
GG's again.
GG's.
Well, that was quite the race, and couldn't have think of a better person to be able to do the commentary with than you, Professor Renderer. We've gotten to do this a couple times, and it's always a blast. So I want to thank you, of course, for helping to keep me honest up here in the booth while we got to witness some incredible gameplay from two absolutely amazing runners.
Oh yeah, it's always been it's always an honor to be in the commentary booth with you, as someone who's effectively the ambassador for the community. It's always great to talk to someone who is very knowledgeable with the game and knows everything from the inside out. And yeah, it's I every time we do this, I'm always learning something new. And yeah, uh, it's an honor working with you again.
Absolutely. Well, friends, that is going to do it for us here today. However, there is always more free enterprise. First and foremost, we have 3 races tomorrow. Burn the midnight oil, friends. We have 3 races. They're all going to be late. We have Pyre versus Judge Joe at 10 Eastern. We have Coffee and Chocobos versus some guy named Possum Morpheus at 11 Eastern. And then we have X Pancraz versus Infinius at 11 Eastern. All 3 races tomorrow happening basically what will effectively be concurrently, unless Pyre and Joe is an Ultra Jet. So, hope you don't have plans for Friday night, or if you do, that they end early, because those are 3 races you are not going to want to miss. In addition to that, we are going to be going and saying hello to a friend of the free enterprise community and a wonderful runner and super knowledgeable fellow as well about the game, and that is Tall Grant. He is playing some free enterprise at the moment, so let's go cheer him on. One last huge shout out to everyone behind the scenes, Pyre for the restream, Garen for tracking, and Professor Renderer, of course, again, thank you so much for being a wonderful commentary partner here. Remember, y'all, no spoilers or you will get the bonk. Have a great night, y'all.
Have a good rest of your night, and we'll send over to Talgran.